Call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Where'd Sandy go? Well, if you're taking notes, just note all board members are present, actually in person this time. Yay. We're going to start with open forum, and we have two people who filled out items that they want to talk about. Vicki, do you want to go first? And Jim, you can go when Vicki's done.
Yeah, I've never done this, so I sit here.
And make sure you talk into the microphone so people
Okay.
can hear.
All right. Okay, so I guess I'm here. I don't think there's so much of an argument against do we need a pool in our community or not, but I want to kind of address two issues just coming from a swim parent standpoint and also from being on the task force regarding the pool and the referendum question. So as a swim parent, I've seen this program continue to grow throughout the 6 years with great success. My daughter graduates this year, so I no longer have a vested interest like I once did. However, just because it's no longer my need, doesn't mean I will not support something that is for the greater good. We've had state participants. We won our first meet in many years. And several girls have started to swim year-round, but do it all outside our community in Montgomery, Prior Lake, Burnsville, and Lakeville. And so I can't imagine what our swim team would look like if we had a facility here where they could swim, designated school time also in the morning and really whenever needed to improve as a team and then get more kids involved. And as a scoreboard operator at our swim meets, every meet that we ran at home, we all showed up as parents just hoping that our equipment worked. So, I feel like if a pool doesn't become a part of our community, that eventually we will be putting money into a pool that does not belong to us because our touchpads do not work and our scoreboard is quite outdated. So eventually I feel like money will be going in there that we'd have to come up with. And again, it's not our facility. And beyond just the team, I feel like a pool would benefit our town in, our kids' basic curriculum that is required and, at community at large, the elderly, the physical therapy department. I raised a young toddler in Texas where you could run in the parks all winter. I can't imagine, I think a pool would be a great opportunity for parents to bring young kids to in the wintertime to, burn off all that toddler energy. And so I think it's just as a community-wide asset that everyone would benefit from. So tonight, I guess, I feel like the bigger question maybe, though, is our referendum vote and how do we present that to the community? Do we do one or two? So I know statistically in the past, this community, they've had, when they've had a second question, 75% has been voted down. And, I'm personally not sure why. I don't know, just because we give people choices, is that the outcome? And they can do that. You as a school board asked to form a facility task force, and we did. I think we had a great cross-section with each member, cross-section of our committee with each member being very committed to the task and attended regularly. We got out in our community, we found out what people wanted, and we did that, and we gave up 6 weeks, and we actually went a 7th week just because we wanted to make sure we did it right and covered all the bases. And as a result of that, over 80% had agreed that we felt the pool was an important part of the referendum and should be included. And when the discussion came about a 1 or 2 question referendum, we discussed that as well, and over 80% agreed that that should be kept to 1 question, knowing that it wasn't ultimately our decision on that. And that was our recommendation. So in addition to that, I would like to add that, just personally, I feel there's been many decisions made in our school system that we don't always get to have a vote or say on it. And I know this was a whole different process with the stadium. That was a decision made, and we didn't get to say, did that money get to go to the pool? Did it get to go to a stadium? Did it get to go to curriculum? And granted, it didn't hit our pocketbooks directly, but indirectly, we're all affected by decisions that are made. And so, as a community member, I have to trust that the people who did make those decisions made it in the best interest and in good faith. So we don't always, I feel like, get to make decisions on everything. And so now I feel like there's a concern about having the public choice on a pool. And my questioning and wondering is, why just a pool? If we're going to start, if we really want to, divvy everything out, do we need another gym and cafeteria where the cafeteria currently feeds, the same amount of kids that we have? So do we need deferred maintenance, early childhood education? Do we just split it all out, or, do we need another task force to get assembled to reevaluate what we've already done? So I feel like the bottom line is, we did our job, and I thought we did it well. And, I hope that each of you would trust that process and move forward with what was recommended by the committee. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Jim Conley.
Hi, I'm Jim Conley. A lot of you know me. Lived and grew up in this area and raised 4 kids, and I'm not going to repeat everything, but Vicki really, when I signed the card in case I wanted to speak, Vicki shared about 80% of what I think a lot of the main concerns or the main, but secondly, I want to first of all respect the board very, very much for no matter what your decision turns out to be. I'm on a couple of boards, and some of them with elected, some of them not, and you want to be trusted by your constituents, or in the district in this case, and I think I speak for everybody in that no matter what, we have to respect that, no matter what the decision is as to when you have the referendum, and if there's 1 or 2 questions. I'd like to think everybody in the room wants to pull on the same end of the rope. I also am a past one of my 4 children were on the swim team for 2 or 3 years, and that was 10 or 12 years ago, and the issue of the pool was, in my mind, very outdated at that point, and I'm just sharing that side of that issue. Vicki covered the intricacies of the pool team, but I think the bottom line is, and she highlighted the 70 to 80% of us that spent a lot of time, and I didn't make every meeting, but and I think you respect the task force. We sat here and made our recommendation, in lieu of a $78 million new one. We recommended what we did, and there's a lot of items in that $56 million that could be dissected, and Vicki covered all that, so I'm not going to repeat it. And I, so that kind of does lead me to the fact that, are there 15 classrooms or 22 classrooms or 8 classrooms? We don't question that. We trust, And whether there was a football field built, we trust. It's beautiful. Not everybody might have agreed, but it's there and it's beautiful, and we trust it. And I think I do have, kind of an ongoing, long-time concern is why is always the pool this big white elephant in the room? Why is it always the pool thing? And let's face it, a lot of the people in the room were, and I included, the pool was a concern of mine. But I've got 5 now and soon to have 7 grandkids in the school system, from 3 and then 4 of my kids. So I've got a lot of interest in what goes on here. It isn't just about the pool. The schools, the safety, the ongoing education, the wide curriculum that we're going to continue to do. And I think most of us would want to look at this thing as a really big picture. 56 or 58 million is still a lot of money, an awful lot of money. And how we spend it is in your hands. And I would say that, we'll trust you if you trust the people, and I think that pool is, to pull a line item out there, whether it's 7 million or whatever it is it's kind of muddying the water up a little bit. We don't question the other 49 million, I don't. And, you know, you had a pretty good consensus, but, you know, we aren't questioning where the schoolrooms are going to be, the classrooms, or where the locker room, where the meeting rooms for the community. I mean, I live 10 miles from town. I've been driving back and forth for 50 years. Oh, no, I wasn't 8 when I was driving. I was probably 13, but I'm here to say 10 miles from the market or 10 miles here, I think we made a good recommendation with the building additions and so forth. The city has indicated some definite cooperation and alliance with this, and I think that's a big plus. And I think I really believe that from the community, from the whole school district, and I did consensus back on the school district and looked at the, you know, the demographics back when I was involved in businesses in town, and you know, we're pretty widespread. And you know, and I think the task force was well represented. Maybe there were some issues. You know, I was like one of 2 people from west of the New Prague city limits. Should we have had more representation in a perfect thing? Yeah. Or did we have large landowners? Maybe, maybe not. But out of 36 people, I think they did as good as they could with everybody that was brought in here. So, you know, we'd really recommend, and with, you know, I'm going to be here, God willing, for a few more years yet, and a whole bunch of family connections. And whether it's a graduation, a band concert, football game, or a swim meet, let's pull it together and make it simple, put it on one ballot, and, you know, just put the trust back into all the people. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. We only have one item on our agenda, but I suppose we should probably officially approve our agenda before we start.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any additions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. Tim's going to start the bond referendum presentation.
Yep, I'm going to take you through a quick timeline of just the process here, and then also my recommendation. And as school board, when I was hired about a year and a half ago to be superintendent, I told you I would do my best. I told you that relationships are very important, that we'd follow the golden rule. And I think it's very important that I do that with staff, parents, community members, students, everyone. And hopefully that's been modeled. And the third thing is we do the right thing. We do the right thing for kids, and we do the right thing for the residents of this community. So my recommendation will be based on that tonight. I didn't think taking this job a year and a half ago we'd be this much into facilities, but I will say this. Before I was hired for the job, you hired a consultant who surveyed staff, administration, community members, and parents. And in all 4 of those domains, one thing, or several things came up consistently between all 4 groups. One was an upgrade in facilities for the middle school and CEC, and also an upgrade in technology and security. And the very first year, last year, we were able to address those short-term needs the best we could within our existing budget for technology and security. As I looked through it, as we were going through it, obviously we were able to do it with our existing general funds. But as I read the 2008 study that was done, that was the last time it was a facility study was done and completed, it was noted that earlier that what came out of that study was the stadium, the multipurpose field that we have now. It's a beautiful facility. And we also, from that study, it was recommended that we needed more field space. So right off Central Avenue across from the middle school, the Helen Borkowski property was purchased through our existing funds and developed into soccer and softball, baseball fields. So that's what was taking place from the facility study. And like I said, the greatest challenges for us from the consultant findings was facilities with technology and security, and then along with this facility study, the stadium and the land. But there was other recommendations, and as I went through that, I saw things that have come up. Now, my perspective is not just as a superintendent, it's also 10 years as a middle school principal, it's also as a parent who's had kids go through the system, and obviously as a resident here in the New Prague area school system. So my recommendation tonight, as you'll see, is influenced by those. I can't just be just the superintendent, but I've experienced some things that I think need to be addressed, and when you talk about trusting the process, I did trust the process. What we wanted to do with the facility study process is it had to be community driven. I said this from the very beginning. It couldn't be about what myself, the superintendent, what Tim Dittburner wanted, or you as the school board wanted. It had to be what the community members felt was needed, our district residents. So that's where it had to be driven. We needed a diverse group, and we needed active participation. And I'm very proud of the task force that we had. Actually, it started with 36, like Jim mentioned, but one dropped off right before we started it, and another found out he didn't live in our school district. Yep. Anyway, but our average attendance in 7 meetings was 30.5, so we averaged 3.5 members gone. So it was an outstanding process, and we went through the steps. And the steps we went through was, I remember the first meeting, it was, where are we at? What's your opinions of the facilities in this district? What questions do you have? Then it was fact-finding. We surveying staff, taking tours of the building, having a facility analysis done, taking a look at the demographic study that was done by Reinhold Consulting. And then finally it was to evaluate the options that were done, and finally to make a recommendation. I also want to make a note of the support by the City Council. I was able to present the recommendation at a City Council meeting, and the City Council was very supportive and of the movement of the district towards this referendum, especially with the swimming pool. As you well know, we cannot do this alone. And they've passed a resolution as the New Prague City Council to share in the operating costs. And I think that's what we need to do is be financially responsible. It's got to be financially feasible. The other thing I want to mention too at this time, the norm now is collaboration. Collaboration with the city of New Prague, with all the cities and townships that we work with. And I give examples. Obviously, the City Council using our chambers here for their meetings now would be an example of this. Another small example would be the city of Elko Newmarket, taking care of the maintenance around our Eagle View Elementary now. Instead of having someone take a truck out there with equipment and working on fields, we've got an agreement with them for them to take care of the cost of that. And that's just being, like I said, being collaborative and being financially responsible. So the content, when you talk about a referendum question, it first starts with content, then we'll talk about cost, then the date of the referendum, and finally the structure, which was mentioned earlier in the open forum, which means 1 or 2 questions. The content that was improved was for a middle school addition renovation. If I had a nickel for every phone call I received as principal, concerns about the safety and security of our students going back and forth, I'd be a rich man. That is a concern. And as one parent told me, my last year as principal there, you're just waiting for something bad to happen. So I think that needs to be addressed, and that was clearly a priority as it came through the facility task force from the first meeting on. Second thing was the CEC renovation, and with that you could put the demolition. When you talk about costs, I know Vicki mentioned about, costs that we'll have to incur even if we don't have a swimming pool, trying to operate another district swimming pool, about deferred maintenance. The CEC renovation, the CEC itself, the old building, 1923, will have at least $3 million in repairs, maintenance, deferred maintenance in that building in the coming years, $9 million in the CEC, and approximately $2.5 million at Falcon Ridge Elementary. This is something we can't levy for. This is something that the 25 largest school districts in the state of Minnesota can levy for, but we can't. So that, along with other deferred maintenance projects throughout the district, are included in this recommendation, things that need to get done. An example would be we're starting early and ending early next year to do a $400,000 roofing project at the old part of the CEC. Obviously, if this referendum would pass, we wouldn't be doing it. So there'd be no reason to get out early. So maybe we'll keep this on.
Hey.
Another thing that was included in the content, and it's been mentioned already, is the swimming pool, zero depth entry. And we talk about swimming teams, but to me, I also look at it as having this along with the gym, and we've talked about having a multi-purpose room next to it. It would be something, a more of a community center approach, something that as a district I think would be a neat thing, something that goes from toddler or from birth all the way to senior citizen, that we'd make it so it's multi-generational. And that's what we talked about at the last meeting, is to have a zero depth entry. And so that we're serving all districts, all district residents, we're meeting the needs of everybody in the New Prague school community, New Prague area school district community. And then transportation, to be able to get all of our vehicles inside. I know on the referendum question that will be up here, that'll be something that will be on there that would be a recommendation from the task force as an optional, or like you want it included, if possible, in the dollar amount that we have. So that is the content that will be on the referendum question that we will read later. The next thing is the election date. My recommendation is to go this spring, May 5th, 2015. It was written in the editorial was written in the New Prague Times about combining elections that we'd save money. That is true. We would save about $20,000. But if we wait for construction beds and with inflation, it's going to cost us millions. Normally, I can see doing that, but with the interest rates also being as low as they are, in the federal, we've talked to, Sandy Lynn has talked to the Springstead Financial, and the feds want to raise interest rates by mid-year or shortly thereafter. It'd be a big gamble to wait. And I think we could save our residents, our tax-paying residents, a lot of money by going ahead and moving ahead on May 5th. I know it's an aggressive timeline, but I think it's the right thing to do. The cost of the project, the third part of the question. With the zero depth entry pool, it made it $57 million. But we have bond issuance costs of $1.48 million. So that brings it to the $58.48 million. I do want to make a point here too, because we've said this I know it's been in the New Prague Times in the past, but I just also want to point out, we've saved over $4 million in the last 2 years on refinancing our bonds. So I think that's something we need to get the word out too. The updated tax impact from Springstead Financial has changed. It's actually, we have, because of lower interest rates, the tax impact on a $150,000 home has decreased from $81 to $68 per year. The average home in New Prague is $150,000. So that is approximately, roughly just under $6 a month increase. $200,000 home would still be under $100.97. I put this into perspective this way. Jordan passed a bond referendum last year, and it was for renovating their middle school and also adding on with a community center without a pool. It's $40 million. And a $200,000 home, it was $275 per year. So the difference is $97 to $275. $58 million is, I know it's sticker shock, but if you put it in perspective, when it's really truly counts as a tax impact on residential homes, and we're going to have information, and we'll show you in a second here, on agricultural and business too. So it's a whole different game in regards to that, and I don't want to lessen that. But you can see how it's decreased on the lower interest rates that we figured there. Resolution A on the structure now If it was one question, like I said, it's 58,480,000. If we split it into two questions, and we've agreed if it was a second question for the board, the second question in regards to the pool with zero depth interest and everything and making sure we have enough for everything would be 9,540,000. So our next step, as you can see, and I'm going to go back, if we could, my thing on tax impact, or in the past bond elections, do you have that?
I'll have to get that up.
Okay.
Sorry. Want to do that?
I'll
right now?
finish this first and we'll go to that.
Okay.
So next step, we'll have, if this is passed on one or two questions, we'll have community and staff presentations. We'll need to submit a review and comment to the Minnesota Department of Education. Deliver the notice of election to the 3 county auditors by February 20th. Supervise ballot printing no later than March 20th. Have a resolution appointing election judges by April 10th. Mail a notice of the special election to all registered voters. And obviously also put in the various publication and posting requirements by the May 5th election day. Before I talk about my recommendation for one or two questions, I want you to put that up there quick here, because it will tie into that. Did you have mine? The one.
Oh, that one. Okay, I'm sorry.
All right. Just some past elections and bond referendum elections. It was talked about earlier. I know it was mentioned in the open forum. You can see back in May 4th, 2004, 41% of our eligible voters voted on 3 elementary schools. It was defeated. Went back in December 14th, 2004. We had 39% of the voters for 2 elementary schools and upgrades to the CEC. And as you can see, that passed, 56 to 44%. We had a second question for land purchase in addition to the high school, which failed. And then also the swimming pool at that time also failed. I just scroll down so it comes up a little bit. On November 8th, 2005, we had a question, actually 4 questions. Addition to the high school, which passed, swimming pool at the high school, land acquisition, and you can see what the increase on a $200,000 home would have been at the time, and then energy efficiency did pass. So there's 4 questions there. May 5th, again, reviewing what the total cost is and what the tax impact would be on a $200,000 home. All this information I've given to the school board. My recommendation is to go one question. I just feel it's been part of the discussions the whole way, has been a priority throughout the facility task force. The input that I've received around our community, all over our communities and all the different townships and people I've talked to have been very supportive of everything that's been within it. I'm also looking at past history, and I just worry about the signal that it sends too when it's a second or third question, if you look at past history, that it is not a priority then, and that it is a need. And I think it's a great community asset for us. And like I said, I'm influenced, I guess, again, not just being a superintendent and taking feedback, but also being a principal, seeing the things that I see here at the CEC that need to be addressed as a parent and as a resident, and what I'd like to see, and that's why my recommendation is that. Bottom line is this: if we go with 2 questions or 1 question, I don't think there's anything wrong. I told you to vote your conscience, and that's what you need to do. I'll leave it at that. But my thing is, throughout this whole presentation, as I thought about things, is to do the right thing. That's what you asked me to do, and my recommendation is, I believe this is the right thing to do at this time, and I think it's best for our kids and it's best overall for our district residents.
Thanks, Tim. So I'd like to open it up for the board to discuss, and we'll talk about it for a while, and then we can make motions to decide which way we want to go on the referendum.
Could we make a motion first and then begin the discussion on one end or the other?
Absolutely.
But
We
that,
could.
that might be more proper, so
Yeah.
do you want to?
And actually, I'll go ahead and make the motion to consider a one-question referendum.
To continue the discussion or to further discussion, I will second that. Or to get the discussion going, I will second that.
All right, let's have our further discussion then.
Okay, Manny?
I guess I look at the whole picture as being an educational referendum. It is for educational facilities, and I include in that the pool. To me, a pool is a place where education takes place just as much as it does in a typical classroom. I think it's a facility that furthers the education of our children. I know that also comments were made about how important it is to the community and things like this, but my purpose of being on this board is to further the education of our children in the school district and to make it a district that has the best facilities possible. And I put a pool into that same category as I would any classroom, any gym, any other facility. So therefore, I strongly recommend that we consider this as an educational facility and therefore include it in only one question.
I just wanted to echo what Dennis said, that having a pool, I feel educational. Swimming is a lifelong learning. It's a sport. We have, as you know, many lakes who's stop counting or plus minus, that I think that we have water safety. It just opens a whole new arena for us. We can do year-round lessons now. We can get through the skills. They can practice and perfect them instead of trying to get them all done in one summer. And I think it was noted in our community ed meeting that realistically the pool is open of the summer for a month and a half, because when you take in June is still a cool month, and the makeup lessons with the bad weather, it really just gives you don't get the whole 3 months of a summer. And I think this will allow for practice. It's going to allow, it opens a lot of doors. It opens, it's intergenerational, and I think that that's going to help the hospital if they want to partner or don't want to partner. They'll have, the seniors can do, it really opens a lot of possibilities for us. And I think as a growing district, when we went out for the referendum almost 10 years ago, we're a bigger district now, and our needs have increased. I just wanted to echo a little bit what Denny was saying. Oh, and I
Go ahead.
don't know. I like it all into one, because we tried it the other way. I like that we're going to have it as a one question, because I feel that all the needs interchange, and they really are. They're all needed.
Even though I second it, I hope you do understand that I can voice my opposition to it, and I think I will. Maybe I should go by the door so I can run quick. I don't know. But anyway, to me, it's not about whether I'm for or against the pool. In fact, I'm part of a baseball committee that's been working very hard to improve our baseball facilities, and that baseball committee wants nothing more than to have that pool moved. However, having said that, I do believe our voters should be given that choice on that second option, as a second question. A swimming pool is a big item. I will agree with the two people who spoke at the open forum earlier, Vicki and Jim, that about 80% of the task force did support one question. There were about 20% that wanted two questions, and I would say that 20% contacted me, and they probably did because they knew I was in support of the two questions. I don't think there's any, like Tim said earlier, no matter which way we go, there's no wrong way. But I am a believer that it still should be given an option for the people to decide on the pool, because it has been controversial for 40 years, and it probably always will be. So that's it.
I think we should make it one question. Our community's always been pro-education. I trust them. They're a very intelligent community. I had most of them in class. And I don't know, people think we're playing games when you have several questions. I say put her out there, and we trust the people.
I'm also in favor of one question, and I like the comment about swimming being a lifelong sport, and people can continue that after they leave school, and this will give more of an opportunity to have year-round lessons and more expertise.
Well, everyone knows that I've been supporting a one question referendum. I think it's all part of the same education thing. We need all of these items to make our school district better. And rightly or wrongly, I think in the past referendums, when there has been a second question, it's been viewed as an optional item. So that's why I recommend we do it as one question and have it all be, required to meet the needs of all of our residents, our kids in school, as well as our, young learners and our senior citizens. They all can benefit from, the pool and all the other things that we're trying to include in this referendum.
I have a lot to say. As a parent, as a school board member, as an alumni of New Prague, I have found myself in the last 9 months working out of the state of Minnesota and looking at schools. And what I found is they're not good. And I have been asked by many people, so, is your family moving? The answer is no. I refuse to take my children out of New Prague because New Prague is a great school district. New Prague, why would I take my children out of A+ school district to either A, I have to homeschool them because the public school that I'd move them into is so bad that they would be on the A honor roll, never cracking a book, never doing homework, never anything. I'm sorry. My children deserve to work for their grades, and that's what they get here. They get the help they need to get it done. They get it done right. So the only way that we can be competitive, and we have to be competitive as a school district, is to put the pool in. We're not going to draw anyone else to this district because we don't have a pool. A lot of people are like, well, you have a swim team, but you don't have a pool. So you're willing to pay additional costs to have your swim team go over here, at which point in time we're paying top dollar. We need the pool? Sorry, Jerry. One question, $58 million and some change. Or two questions, with the second question being less than $10 million. I got to go for one question. I can't, if we're saying this is a community, this is all about it, and question 2 has to do with the zero entrance, then I've just lost a lot of our community. And I can't afford to do that because I like my community. So I'm for one question.
Let's call a vote, I guess, unless anyone has anything else to
And
add.
I guess in fairness to Jerry, I know that there are people that want to have things divided up and to be able to voice their opinion on certain things and other things. But, we don't do that with most things. We don't say, okay, we're going to build this school, but we're going to take it apart and have you vote on a gym here and these classrooms over here and this facility over here. We just don't do that. And we don't do that with educational facilities. And again, I go back to the fact that this is an educational facility. And the reason that we're doing it is to further the education in a different way other than in a classroom. But it is still an educational facility, and I'll still look at it that way, no matter if it passes or not.
Right. I told Jerry before the meeting that you're actually going to help us, Jerry, because your opinion, because we're not all going to look like we all agree on every single thing all the time. I said so. And with Kitten and Jerry, I also want to, on behalf of the whole board, thank the whole task force for putting us through this process. You gave us, you laid the legwork down. I want to thank you guys for that and all your combined efforts, because in Kitten and Jerry, in giving their viewpoints, it allowed us to get get an informed decision. And that's really what we were looking for at the end of the day. So I wanted to thank you guys all for that. Task force as well.
And I just think we will all work very hard to get this passed in May.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We hate to lose, right, Don? We hate to lose.
We don't want to go for 3. We want to get.
Okay, all in favor of the motion to have one question for the referendum?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion passes 6-1. Denny, do you want to read the official referendum?
At this time, I'll consider a motion to look at the resolution relating to the issuance of school building bonds and calling for an election thereof.
Make that motion.
Second.
Is there a second? The motion to consider the issuance of school building bonds and calling for the election be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District 721, State of Minnesota as follows. The board hereby finds and determines that it is necessary and expedient for the district to borrow money in an aggregate amount not to exceed $58,480,000 and not to exceed any limitation upon the incurring of indebtedness which shall be applicable on the date or dates of the issuance of the bonds, for the purpose of providing funds for the acquisition and betterment of school sites and facilities, including the construction and equipping of an addition to and remodeling, repair, renovation, and upgrading of the existing New Prague Middle School site and facility, the demolition of the 1923 portion of the Central Education Campus, and the remodeling, repair, renovation, and upgrading of the remaining Central Education Campus, the completion of various deferred maintenance and technology upgrade projects at school sites and facilities district-wide, the construction of an indoor pool with zero depth entry, and to the extent bond proceeds remain available for the purpose, the construction of a new transportation building. The question on the borrowing of the funds for these purposes shall be School District Question Number 1 on the school district ballot at the special election held to authorize the said borrowing. The actions of the administration in consulting with the Minnesota Department of Education causing a proposal to be prepared for submission on behalf of the board to the Commission of Education for review and comment. The actual holding of the special election on School District Question Number 1 specified herein shall be contingent upon the receipt of a positive review and comment from the Commissioner of Education on the projects included in that question. And then the following resolution all concerns different items and tasks that have to be completed before the election, the most important of which is the ballot question shall be submitted to the qualified voters of the school district at a school special election, which is hereby called and directed to be held on Tuesday, May 5th, 2015, between the hours of 7 o'clock a.m. and 8 o'clock p.m. How do you vote on this, Don?
Yes.
Jean?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
Kitten?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Dennis? Yes. Item passes.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn?
So
Or
moved.
do you have something else?
I just want to say
Oh, sorry.
one thing. It'll be a little Minnesota nice here, but I will say this, and I know everyone around the table here on the board will say the same thing. We might disagree on the question, but I know everyone's very supportive, and Jerry, you're the biggest supporter of New Prague schools there are. But now we become unified, not just this board administratively, but the work begins with everyone in this room and everyone around that supports it. So the work begins now, but I want to thank the support again. It was mentioned earlier, the facility task force and the people that are interested in this process. So now we need to work together.
Yes, thank everyone for showing up today to show your support for the facilities. Now we can have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We'll take a 5 to 10 minute break and start our work session after that.